Hello, hello. I am Krystal Arthur, your holistic spirituality coach, and this is Testify Tuesday in Functional Faith. We are here with Camille Dangerfield. Hello, Camille.
Hi, how are
Thank
you?
you for being here with me.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Yeah, I am super excited. In Functional Faith, we are all about empathy, education, and empowerment. And that is why we are having these Testify Tuesdays because they just totally display that for us, I feel like, when we are learning about people's stories and whatnot. So, is Camille teaches coaches how to build a tribe full of their ideal clients and simple strategies for generating more leads and sales online. And if you are not a coach or a consultant or a course creator, stay tuned for this recording because y'all don't know Camille, okay? This girl, way before I knew what I was doing with my life, was just giving so much inspiration to me, so much motivation, encouragement, and just ministering to me, ministering to my soul and to my purpose. And really, I think in large part, I owe like the courage to do what I'm doing now. Y'all seeing me in your face on your screen to Camille. So she is my business coach, and I am very thankful for her.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Thank you. So yeah, drop some likes and hearts for Camille if you're watching, and let us know if you're watching this right now. If you're catching the replay, this might be live streamed. I don't know. Camille's still teaching that to me. But yeah, like I said, we met through her sharing her videos on her personal page, and then I joined her free group, and then I said, "Take all my money." I was just ready to learn from her more because you'll see that she's just a powerhouse. So we're gonna start off with one of the first things that gave me so much value that she just gave away for free. She's gonna read the Intentional Woman's Creed for us. And what I do is, if I don't have it in front of me, which I do, this is my little get your stuff together binder.
I've ever seen anyone else's printed copy of it. That is so
This is real life. I needed a hard copy, so I couldn't act like I lost it. No,
I love it.
and it's the first thing in my binder too, mind you. It's the very first. And I have other things in here that are affirmations and things for the kids, positive parenting things to keep myself on track. But anyway, this was free. This sheet I got from her. I think I just messaged you for it because you mentioned it one time in a video or something.
Maybe, yeah.
But it has given so much value, added so much value to my life. So I'm gonna be quiet and let her read it to us. And what I normally do is I usually, if I don't have it in front of me, I repeat it like after her. So if you want to join us in that, feel free.
Yeah. So I wrote this creed, I think it was in 2019, maybe. I had launched my first group coaching program, and at that time my brand was The Intentional Woman, and the name of the group was The Intentional Woman Community. And so that's how this creed was birthed. But although my brand is not called The Intentional Woman anymore, I still use the creed all the time. And yeah, I never really thought about how many people I've shared this with over these couple of years. And just like seeing you having that printed off like that, I'm like, wow, I wonder how many printed copies there are of this creed all over the world, right?
Mhm.
Because you can accidentally become international real quick in these online streets. When I realized I had people, like there was a lady in Italy, I have people in the UK, all over, and I'm like, wow, it's kind of baffling sometimes how all of this happens, especially when I never would have imagined I was doing this. We'll get to that later. Let me pull up the creed and I'll go ahead and recite it. I, Camille Dangerfield, am an intentional woman and accept full responsibility for creating a prosperous and abundant life. With God's help, I am the master of my thoughts, words, emotions, and actions, and stay in continuous alignment with the woman I have chosen to become. I am purposeful. I hold a crystal clear vision for every area of my life and use my gifts, skills, and abilities to perform the work I was created to do. I understand that my harvest is a result of my habits. Therefore, I am committed to establishing any habits and routines that are necessary to achieve success. I am powerful. I strengthen and nourish my mind, body, and spirit daily. I maintain a strong relationship with God, and I practice active faith. I believe in myself. I
I
believe in
believe in
myself.
myself. I
Yes,
believe in myself.
myself. I believe in myself because I am confident in the power of the Spirit of God that dwells in me. I am prosperous. I continuously sow seeds of word, time, energy, and money to cultivate a bountiful harvest in my garden of life. My health is abundant, my purse overflows, and my relationships are harmonious and full of love, respect, and joy. I am a woman of ever increasing value, and I keep several streams of income flowing into my life. I am peaceful. I keep my environment clean, tidy, and full of positive energy. I extend grace and respond in all circumstances from a place of power, love, and a sound mind. Because I am certain that all things are working together for my greatest good, I am calm and unshakable as I navigate the challenges of life. My life is blessed and highly favored, and I am fearfully and wonderfully made. I am a beautiful, phenomenal, loving human being, and I live an intentional life.
Intentional life. Girl, we could just talk about that. There is so much in that.
There's a lot. It's kind of long. It's a lot of words, but
I need every word every day.
and I'm thinking about making some change, adding something to it. Mostly the same, but right now I'm in a wisdom challenge. It's a 31-day wisdom challenge. And each day, the month of January, we've been in a different book of Proverbs. And the importance of really pursuing wisdom has really been impressed upon me. I feel that in some ways I have pursued it, but I don't think I've been as intentional as I could be about my pursuit of wisdom. And I think it's something that's important enough to add a line in the creed around pursuing wisdom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay. I have to check. I have to keep myself in check because I could talk to you about anything. I was about to be like, yeah, girl, because. But that's good. Well, I look forward to the Intentional Woman's Creed 2.0. And then we might just have to do this again only on the creed.
Only on the creed, yeah, because there's a lot here. We could do a whole week just on the creed, like one piece each day.
It is totally possible because I could share a story for everyone and just there were days where a different part of it stood out to me more than another one. Or I thought when the first time I read it, I thought, oh, I don't really struggle with that, or it just didn't have any meaning for me. And then like a week later I read it and was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh. It is so good. So anyway,
the habits line, that's the line for me right now. Like
what's the line?
The habits, where I say that my harvest is a result of my habits.
Mm-hmm.
That's my season of habits and execution. Yeah.
Yes. If you want this creed, you don't have to just keep rewinding and listening to it. And that's what I did the first time. I was like, what'd she say? Leave a comment and we will make sure that you get it because it is so good. Yeah. Okay. Can you tell us about how you came to be in the role that you were in, motivating, inspiring, equipping women to pursue their passion?
Yeah. So, man, I'm going to give you the shortest version I can. All right. It was kind of a winding road, but the short version of it is I had been an entrepreneur on a part-time basis for years and years and years. I always had something going on ever since I was in college. So I always knew that I was not meant to retire from an employer. You know, I was in the financial services industry, and I was like, I'm not going to retire from here, right? And so I have 3 daughters. After I had my second daughter, I had said, I'm going to figure something out and I'm not going to return after my maternity leave. And I didn't do it. So I went back. I did end up taking quite some time off. I took a leave of absence and it was great, but I went back. And then when I got pregnant with my third daughter, 4 days after we told my dad that we were pregnant again, my father died in a car crash.
Oh, that's right.
And I was like, well, when I found out I was pregnant with Chloe, I had said, okay, for real, this time I'm not going back. But then after my dad died, I was like, oh, heck no. I'm like, because we oftentimes think we have all this time to like pursue things and do what we want. And we're saying, well, within the next 10 years, I'm like, I don't know if I have 10 years, right? Like, and not to be grim or bring down the energy of the call, but that's just real. Like, we don't know. And so I'm like, I'm not going to waste another moment in that, like, living for the weekend, living for next year, waiting for this. No, we're going to do this now.
Now, today.
Now. And so when I was on maternity leave with Chloe, I still wasn't quite sure, because at the time, well, first of all, when I first started saying that I wasn't coming back, there was nothing in my bank account that reflected that. There was nothing, there was no plan, there was no how, right? All I had was the what. This is what I want. And I had written out, I was in a network marketing company at that time. And I remember that year in the month of November, they had this Rising with the Stars morning call. And so for me, it was 4 a.m. And I was up every morning in November, 4 a.m. and different leaders were speaking into us and telling us all these things. And that was really my introduction to personal development and mindset, all of these things. Because although I had been, having these side hustles and doing these things for so long, I had never worked on this, right? So it was like a revelation. And so he told us one morning, he challenged us to write out our dream day. And so I did that. I wrote it out, and it took me a while, because I realized then that I was very clear on what I didn't want and what I didn't like, but I didn't know what I wanted. And so I wrote that out, and, things went on, and I still kind of, I held on to that paper, but I wasn't really, I still didn't know what was going to happen, what I was going to do. And so here I am on maternity leave, and I'm like, okay, the network marketing company that I was in, that I thought was maybe the thing, that company folded. This was the same company where I got this, idea to do this dream day exercise. So I'm like, okay, well, that's not it. And I said, well, I'm just going to start doing videos, because what I knew was that in order to establish myself online and start building an audience, I had to turn on my camera. So I'm like, well, I'm going to do that. But I didn't know what I was going to talk about. So I had a few different things, because I'm very much, into natural parenting and natural living and things like that. So I was thinking at first, maybe I'm going to talk about like essential oils and detoxing and that type of thing. And I remember my very first video, it was actually about how I wore my baby in a baby carrier, because women on the street were asking me about it. And so I said, I'm just going to get on this video and demonstrate how I wrap her in this thing. And so I did that. And then I started doing some videos about some financial things. And then I did a motivational video. And people were like, woo! Like, all these shares. I'm like, okay. Right. So I'm like, okay, maybe this is what I'm going to continue to talk about. And so it was, I won't say it was easy, because I still had like my own negative chatter and like mindset, because I was in it, right? Still am. I mean, I don't think we ever completely arrive, but I was at the beginning phase of like just getting into it. And so it was easy from the standpoint that I always had some content to draw from, because it was my life. Like, I was reading this stuff and studying this stuff. And so, and I was very intentional about my morning routine at that time, because I had read the book, The Miracle Morning. So I'm like, okay, and I'm going to do these savers. And for those of you who don't know that book, the author is Hal Elrod, and it talks about these 6 things that successful people do in the morning, that that basically gives you the life of your dreams. If you do these things consistently, right, it'll improve all these other areas of your life. So I was being very consistent with my mornings. And because of the things that I was studying and doing in the mornings, I was learning all kinds of stuff. And I had all of these revelations and all of these things. So that's where my content was coming from. So if that's when you first connected to me and you were feeling like, you know, I was speaking into you, it was literally just like I was sharing out of my overflow, because that's where I was. And so that's how the Intentional Woman brand was born. I never even, there was never a day where I was like, I'm going to be a coach. People literally just started inboxing me like, will you be my life coach? And the first person that did it was actually a man.
That's interesting.
Yeah. I had gone, and just to, I'm not even going to get into all of the many different businesses that I had before I got to this point.
Okay. Now, you know, I like to research. So early on, I Googled you.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking, I was looking up something that you had said or something. And I was like, she did hair. She had she did.
That's what I can't believe that you found something about the hair. What did you, was it So Believable? Is that what you did?
I don't know. Did you say So Believable?
No, it was called So Believable. That was the name. It was my best friend and I. It was spelled SEW. So
Okay.
Believable. We were doing sew-ins.
Yeah, that's a really good name.
Yeah, but I didn't think there was anything on the internet about that, but that's funny. Anyhow, so I had a shoe business for a while. Oh. And I had gone to this shoe trade show down in Florida. And I went to this like jazz place after the show one day. And this was actually, man, I'm not sure the exact timeline. I don't know if this was the same year that my dad passed, or maybe it was the next year. I can't remember, but I get to this place and I'm by myself, right? No one was with me. I'm in Florida on this trip, and it was actually a really amazing time. Like just being alone. It was so nice. Yeah. And I know that's something that most married moms are not going to say publicly.
Say it, girl.
To be out there with no husband, no kids, nobody calling my name. Like I had somewhere that I had to be, but it was my own schedule. I got to just walk up and down and look at the shoes and then go do whatever I want. It was amazing. But I went to this live jazz because I love live music. That's like one of my favorite things. And go to this jazz spot, and I end up at the bar bawling my eyes out like a crazy woman, because it was exactly the type of thing that me and my dad would have done, because we used to hang out a lot.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there and I'm like, my dad, like I could literally just see him like crashing, like showing up there and sitting there with, you know what I mean? Like it was that type of thing. So it starts off with like a little cry. And then before I know it, I'm like, and they're probably thinking that my husband had left me, or, this well-dressed woman sitting at the bar by herself, bawling her eyes out. It was kind of like, what's that movie where Angela Bassett gets divorced? Yes. Tale. I was like Angela, okay? I was outside looking in. But so anyway, I ended up like networking with the guy whose mom owned the place and stuff, and we became Facebook friends. But it's not like I had really been in communication with this guy, but that's the person who inboxed me asking me to coach him. And I'm like, wait a no. I don't want to be anybody's therapist. And I don't even know, even if I was going to do that, I don't think I want to do it with a man, because, you just never know what people's true intent. And I'm like, no. That was the first person who asked me to coach them. But then it just kept on coming. So I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm going to do this. But I still never called myself a coach. I just said, well, I'm just going to open this community, and I'm going to call it the Intentional Woman Community. Because I had started hashtagging everything, #intentional woman, intentional kitchen, intentional, that became my word. And so that's how it started. And in that process, I found a coach myself. And pretty early on, I realized that I wanted to focus more on business but I was scared to do it because I had not really hit any of my goals yet in business. And I'm like, if you look at most of the people, the ads that you see in your feed, if you clicked on anybody, any coaches or any type of business related stuff, you start getting all these ads in your feed. And all of those ads are like, I made 6 figures in my first 5 days online and 7 figures by the second month. And so I'm like, who's going to listen to me? Because I can't show them that, my PayPal account with $100,000 in it and that type of thing. And so I kind of hesitated on it. But I did what brought me right back to my original thing that I wanted to do, or the shift that I wanted to make, was a virtual summit that I did. So during this time, I'm like, I was executing a little bit, but I was consuming a lot of information, like course after course after course, free webinar after free webinar, all of these trainings, right? And there was one training in particular that was all about how to establish yourself as an authority online. I'm like, yes, that's what I need to do, establish my authority. And so at the very end of this course, there was this bonus video, and a guy was talking about how he had used virtual summits to very quickly build an audience, build his list, and establish his authority. And he was saying how, you don't even have to be the expert on everything. As long as you curate the value and bring it to the people, just by being on the camera with those other people, you establish your authority. By putting together the summit, you're seen as a leader. And so I'm like, okay, I can do this. So my idea was to do a series of virtual summits around different aspects of living an intentional life. And so the second summit in that series was called the Intentional Income Summit. And it was about generating income on your own terms and all of that. And that's when I realized, okay, I need to make the shift. Because, that summit, it lit me up so much. Like, the first one was good. It was fun. And I knew then that I loved to interview people and that I would be doing summits continuously. But and we're not even going to go down this road that far. But, okay, the first summit, I'm just going to tell you the name of it. All over. It was so not connected to this. When I say my path was kind of this winding road, it was. The first summit was called the Happy V Summit.
The Happy what?
V. And V stood for vagina, but I didn't think I could say that on Facebook. And so I was afraid to get things blocked or censored. And so I just went with V. But the first day of that summit, we talked about natural healing, because women are walking around suffering with painful periods and painful intercourse and fibroids and all of these things, infertility, and we're struggling with all of these things, and nobody wants to talk about it. And so I said, I'm going to start off with the thing that everyone needs to talk about and no one's talking about it. Their vaginas and their money. And so the first day of that summit was all about the natural healing, and then the second day was about intimacy and pleasure. And so that was the first summit. So then the second summit.
How did I miss that?
Maybe we weren't connected at that time, but I have all the recordings. And actually, inside of the Intentional Circle group, I believe all those Happy V recordings are there. If you go in the unit section, I think you have access to them. Yeah. So that was that. And then it was the Intentional Income Summit. And so that summit really helped me to understand how much value that I could bring to the table. Because remember, I told you before, I was thinking, well, since I haven't made the money yet, who's going to listen to me? But as I was interviewing the different subject matter experts, in almost every conversation, I had some value to add to the conversation. And I was like, I know this stuff. I've been doing, and even though it was part-time, and even though, I always had a 9-to-5 along with it, even all the times that I failed at stuff, I learned something. And I had this wealth of knowledge, plus all of the stuff that I had been binge learning, the whole time I was trying to figure out this thing. I've invested so much, and I'd probably even be embarrassed to tell you guys how much I've spent on courses and coaching and all of these things. And so I knew this.
I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed too, but you have to, I think I heard it from you. You have to invest in yourself. You are your biggest asset, your greatest asset.
Yeah.
And we invest in so many other things. And you know, when someone's talking about going to college, nobody bats an eye at what their investment is.
Exactly.
We're self-educating.
Yeah, we are.
There's a cost for that.
We are. And because of those investments, I am an asset wherever I go. I don't care what you put me in, right? I'm an asset wherever I go. And it's not just me though, right? Like we all are. You have to think of yourself that way. You're an asset wherever you go. I don't care if it's when you step into your church and you serve, you're an asset there. In your home, you're an asset to your husband, you're an asset to your kids. And when you step into any room, you're an asset there. Even if it's just to lend a helping hand, even if it's to offer a word of encouragement. But if you have some skills that you've developed, nobody can take that from you. And so I can, in any conversation around business, there's something that I can add to that conversation because I've been studying it. Like this, it's in me, right? And it comes out.
You know what actually taught me that? Clubhouse. I've been in rooms with doctors. I've been in rooms with traders and investors and all these different people. And I can always, I don't always, but I can always raise my hand and say something, or at the very least, ask a very good question.
A good question. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like that's really been a huge lesson for me.
And sometimes we disqualify ourselves, and that ties into the insecurities, right? We're disqualifying ourselves because of the wrong stuff, right? We're thinking, well, I haven't been doing this as long as some other people. Yeah. That really means nothing. If you are passionate, if you have been educating yourself, even if you haven't taken any formal certification or you're just beginning to pursue the formalities of it, if you have life experience, you have a level of authority around that topic, right? Yeah. You may not be able to position yourself as a guru, but you know more than someone who's in it right now.
Yeah.
Right. And so we're disqualifying ourselves because we're comparing our starting point to someone else's middle point, or they've been in this game for 15 years. Well, no, like if I compare myself to Lisa Nichols, I have a real serious, inferiority complex going here. But Lisa's been in this game for over 20 years now. Right.
Right.
So it's understanding, just embracing where you are in your process, understanding that as long as you continue to move forward, you'll get to where you want to be. And when you get in those environments with those who are some steps ahead of you, be a sponge. Like if you put me in a room with Lisa Nichols and Les Brown and all of those, the Tony Robbins and all of that, I wouldn't feel inferior. I would feel blessed to be in the space. And I would be, like you said, asking the right questions. Because I know enough from my own self-study and my experience to know what questions to ask them. And I would be, even though sometimes we think, well, what can I bring to the table? I would be asking them, how can I be of service to you?
Yes.
Because even if I could just volunteer at one of Lisa Nichols' events and do, whatever, she need pass out the flyer, whatever. That's an opportunity to get in the room and to glean from her, right? And to show her that I'm not just here for what I can get out of you. I'm not just here to pick your brain. I'm not just here to try to jump on your bandwagon.
Right.
But I respect you. I consider you, one of my virtual mentors, and I'm ready and able to serve you if there's some room for me at the table.
Yep. Now you said insecurities, and I was like, I haven't even really introduced our topic. I realized a little bit more about thriving in spite of insecurities, and by us, I mean, talk to me, because you've been talking to me about this. And anytime I see you make any sort of post or go live talking about doing things afraid or imposter syndrome or having confidence when you're doing anything, I'm always all for it. And I re-listen even. Like I'll listen to the same recordings again and again, because it's just something. And let me stop talking, because I really, I want to hear what you have to share. Because I think so many people, whether it's insecurity in pursuing a passion, or insecurity as a mother or as a wife or as a anything, people struggle with insecurity so much. And so I think this would be a word to just so many people.
Yeah. So insecurity, it's such a complex thing, right? I think there are so many potential different root causes to insecurity, right? Some people are insecure because of the way they were raised and things that were spoken over them as children. Or sometimes they're insecure because of things they observed. Like maybe you didn't bear the brunt of any abuse, but maybe you observed some things in your parents' relationship or someone else around you. And so because of what happened with them, you have this insecurity because you're afraid you don't want that to happen to you. Or maybe you were teased or bullied, right? There's all of these different potential things. But I think ultimately to heal, start healing those things and to get to a place where we can move forward even as we're a work in progress is to understand who God is, who we are in Christ, and to be able to stand on the promises that are in the Word of God. Because, a lack of insecurity, to me, it's a confidence issue. But when we talk about confidence and building confidence and cultivating confidence, I believe that self-confidence is kind of a misnomer. Like, I believe that self-confidence really has to be God confidence first. And then that's like the foundation, right? And then our self-confidence is only based upon who we know God to be, what we trust Him to be and to do. And then because of who we are in Him and through the Holy Spirit, then I have confidence in myself. So I don't know, like people, I'm not a Christian business coach. I don't put myself out there as, I don't try to preach to people. But a lot of time, like if I'm talking to you about this kind of thing, this comes out of me because I don't know how to help you be confident without Christ. Even for people who have different belief systems, you got to believe something. I'll put it that way. If you don't have any type of, if you think you're in this by yourself, I don't know how to help you.
Yeah.
I don't know how to help you.
That's real. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I did not do this by myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I just, at the person who I was learning from when I really started deep diving into my personal development and mindset, she, a lot of the things that, law of attraction and a lot of the things that a lot of the thought leaders in the personal development space teach, she helped us to frame a lot of those things in a Christian context. And she taught us scriptures and certain biblical truths that undergird my foundation of confidence. And I think it was just being underneath her teaching that really helped me, because I grew up in the church, but I never had things taught to me in such a practical way.
Mm-hmm.
And in a way where I was actually starting to apply it in my daily life. Like I believe that in 2018, that summer, because I took that class with her, it was the end of May 2018. That's when I first learned how to actually walk in spirit. I didn't know what that meant, really.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that my journey of learning how to walk in spirit, how to actually, open my mouth and ask for what I want. Open my mouth and say, okay, Holy Spirit, what are we doing here? Which way am I supposed, that just really living the things, because we have all this Christianese and stuff we just say, but actually living it, that's what built my confidence. And then actually having a coach, because a lot of times the things that we are so caught up on and like beating ourselves up over and all worried about or whatever, it's just natural stuff that's part of the process. But because we've never been through it, we don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
And so we're thinking that it's supposed to be this smooth road. And because I messed up and failed this time, well, I don't have what it takes and all of these things. No, this is how it works. You don't get from here to there in a straight path. Even thinking of, how like on the stock charts, if you look at one of those charts, it's like these dips and these highs, right? And even if the trend is up and to the right, that's good. That's a growth, right? If it's going up and to the right, there's still these like dips.
And
It's not just a straight line. You don't just take your ruler and just draw like every day it went up. And so that's how it is with our success. Like our success doesn't happen in a straight line.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're doing it in a silo, if you're doing it without community, if you're doing it without a coach or a mentor, someone to give you perspective from top of the mountain, then you're thinking, I can't do this. All of these things. And you're working yourself up into a tizzy.
Yes.
When a simple conversation with the right person, it'll take you out of that nonsense just like that. Now, I'm not saying it won't be challenging, right? And you have to stay connected. That's the thing. So if you invest in a coach, you got to show up for your coaching.
Right.
You got to tell the truth about where you're at, right? It's just like if you go to the doctor, but you don't tell them all of the symptoms you've been having. You don't tell them the stuff that you've been eating that are outside of what they told you to eat. They can't help you, right? So you have to be willing to be transparent and to stay plugged in. I'm talking about, I would be on calls with my coach. I remember the first day that I was like, listen, because, I put on my makeup and stuff and I try to look nice for the camera. And we had a coaching call, and my coach is a man. And I was like, listen, my hair is not combed and I don't have on no makeup. I'm probably going to cry when we get on this Zoom, but I'm going to come. And I showed up just like that. Hair all over my head, no makeup on, but I was there. And sometimes you just got to take off your mask and go.
Yes.
And that week, so that Sunday before that day, when I showed up on that call with no makeup on, my pastor had preached on taking off your mask. And I was like, God, you really just play too much, because he loves to, you learn something and then you're in it like the next week. Or if don't let me teach it.
Right.
Oh, you're going to be in it. And I'm like, really? Okay. So yeah, that for me, that's how the spiritual growth, and then being connected to a community and to my coach. And so there are still, I still find myself now when there are certain things happening, like I tend to freeze up when a launch is approaching. Depending on what it is, I'll find myself starting to self-sabotage.
Yeah.
And so now I'm aware of that. Like when I start procrastinating, like, why didn't you just do this? Or if I find myself, like there was one time, and I think I made a post about this like the next day, because I find myself, instead of sitting down and doing the stuff to prepare for my launch, I was watching Netflix.
Yeah.
With my husband. And I'm like, and I don't even watch TV. Like if he has it on, when I watch TV, it's more so family time, like because the kids want to watch something, or my husband's over there in his man cave area and I just want to be next to him. So I'll watch it by default, but I by myself never ever turn on a TV. Like if it was just me, I wouldn't even need it here. And so anytime that I'm sitting there binge watching something, when I have work to do, I'm like, okay, wait a minute. What's going on here? And so it's just becoming, aware of your patterns. Like when your insecurities flare up, what do you typically start to do? And then learning how to reset yourself and say, okay, I acknowledge this, but I don't accept this.
Yes.
And this is not what we're doing here.
We had such a good talk on Clubhouse in your room, in your club, about shifting your energy. That's a whole nother thing we can get into.
Yeah.
It was so good, and it was like, we were like, no, we're not talking about ignoring our feelings, but there's a time and a place where you just got to woman up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just say no. Like you said, like, I accept this, I acknowledge this, but I don't accept this. We're going to move forward. And that is so good. And that's sometimes, especially when it comes to insecurity, like, it's just like, that's not something, like, you sit there long enough to be able to say, what is the root of this? Where is this coming from? And like you said, sometimes it's a root in your childhood. Sometimes the root is in like something that somebody told you at work or something like that. But you sit there long enough to kind of identify it, and then you say, okay, I've learned what I need to learn from this feeling. Now it's time to stand up, dance, clap my hands, go for a run, turn on some music, and do this. And do this and be who I am. Be who I am. Not be who I want to be who I will be in the future. Be who I am in Christ today.
Exactly. And I think that learning how to move forward even when you're afraid, I think it's a muscle, right? You have to strengthen it. The more you do it, the easier it is, you know? I'm at a point now where there is no turning back, literally. Like there's nothing else that I could do. I mean, maybe there is, I don't know what, but I feel like this is it. So like me not showing up to do the work is really not an option anymore. So I have to just, when I get those, moments, I have to just reset it. So I'm preparing for, I think I shared this with you guys, that I'm preparing for a launch in a different way than what I'm used to doing. Everything that I've done with my business to this point has been mostly organic, not running paid traffic and all these things. And I'm doing that this spring, where I'm going to be, running cold traffic to a webinar and launching a higher ticket program. And it's going to your next level is always a little bit scary. Now, I know that I'm in great hands because my coach, this is what he does. And he's helped so many people have really awesome launches. And he's confident that this will be successful. And so am I. So it's not a thing where I'm like, I don't know if this is going to work, but I still have to level up in certain ways. And I can't do that self-sabotage stuff. So like how I just told you that I tend to slow down but see, I've been doing these launches by myself. I haven't, even though he's my coach, he hasn't coached me on this, and it hasn't been this hands-on. It's a different level of coaching. And so I've been able to get away with doing whatever I want to do behind the scenes, right? And so when you're invested in some coaching and there's these deadlines and expectations, it's like, no, you have to execute. There is no watching Netflix, right? Or else he's gonna be down my back. He's gonna be charging me extra money because my coach charges you not to do what you're supposed to do. Like if you have to pay him.
That's a good business model.
You have to pay him to work with him, and then you have to pay him if you don't do the work that you signed up for. So like
smart.
Yeah. So for example, like I had to write this email sequence, and I had a deadline. And if I did not get him these emails by midnight on this day, I had to cash out him $100. And I'm like, I don't want to give him $100. And then if 100 doesn't hit you too bad, you're just like, oh, okay, next time it's 250. And he will not move forward with you, right? So you have to pay this money. And I'm like, and he'll tell you, I'm just going to blow it. I'm not going to spend it on anything worthwhile. I'm going to go just blow this money.
Don't act like you invest in this in something.
I'm not gonna, we're going to just go cash out with your money.
I mean, it kind of makes sense too. Is like when I think about like if you miss an appointment with a doctor, they charge you for that. You know what I mean? Like you're kind of missing your appointment with yourself. You're missing. Right. You're not doing what you said you were going to do. Yeah.
And what he says is, it actually costs you either way. Even if I don't charge you money,
very true.
You're costing yourself your results if you're not going to show up and do the work. Very
true. That's a good model. Money motivates. Money motivates.
It does. But after, so I've had a call with him. This was this last week? It was this past, 2 Tuesdays ago. And so by the time I got off my coaching call with him, I was like in this state of overwhelm. And so for like several hours that day, it was just like, how am I going to do all these things? And I'm just like feeling all this anxiety. And it got to the point where, because I teach a Biz Tip Tuesday. Every Tuesday at 7 p.m., I go live inside of my Facebook group.
And it's free.
And it was like approaching 6 o'clock, and I'm like, I just need to go. I just need to cry this out. Like I just felt like if I can just cry, it'll be better. And my husband was home from work, so I went in the bathroom and I just cried. And it was one of those cries where you couldn't, like, I kept on trying to say, okay, get yourself together. But it was like my eyebrow, like my head was hurt. It was just, I had to, but it felt so good.
Yes.
To just release it. And once I got done, I said, okay. Now you need to go put on your makeup and go do this video, because not doing that video is not an option.
Right. Yeah.
Like unless there's something, some serious family emergency or just some reason that I absolutely can't. And even then I'm going to stream something, and you guys are going to have something happening at 7 p.m. Central on Tuesdays. But for me, and that was just that's a product of the process.
Yeah.
There is no turning back anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Even when I have those moments where I'm afraid or feeling insecure, this is just what it is for me now.
Yeah. So like, are there any spiritual disciplines that you find helps like specifically with insecurity, with addressing insecurity in your life?
So that's an interesting question. I don't.
Mind you, we define spiritual disciplines very open-ended over here. So
I think there were certain scriptures that, like I truly believe, and again, I think it goes back to like growing up in the church and having these things that Christians say, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. All things work to the good of all things. And you would say that stuff, and then it's like when you get into the middle of a situation, do you really believe that? Like, I really, really, really believe that. And I really believe that all things are working together for my good. Even when it feels really bad, even when I can't see how it's working, because through just my process of strengthening my spiritual muscles and then looking back at things like even some things that happened that I was totally pissed about, felt totally taken advantage of, felt like they should not have happened prior to this season of laying the foundation for my business. Had I received what I thought was mine back then, I would not have been so motivated to do this. So like, I can see very clearly how, yeah, it's mine, right? But I didn't need it right then.
Yeah.
And so it's things like that where I just trust that even when I can't see it right now, I really believe that it's working together for my good. And I go with that and I just keep moving. I truly believe that the Holy Spirit, everything that I don't know, the Holy Spirit knows. And I have access to everything through the Holy Spirit. I don't care if it's money. I don't care if it's information. I don't care if it's doors that need to be opened. And I'm not, I just truly believe that as long as I keep going, all the gaps will be filled. And so I don't have to worry about how, right? But that was my journey from leaving my job taught me that. I didn't know how I was going to get to here.
Right.
And I would have never been able to make up this story in a million years. Like, even if I had written out a plan, it wouldn't have looked like this.
Yeah.
And all of the divine connections that happen along the way, even, the blessings, like my coach has been a tremendous blessing. And the timing on that, like, I caught him where a lot of my coaching clients caught me, like in that phase of, I got this, I know I'm going to the next level, but it's still pretty accessible to work with me right now.
Right.
I caught him before. Yeah. So like the things that I'm getting for low cost right now, people are paying top dollar for. And so even just the timing on that, like, God put me with the right people to help me get to where I couldn't even see myself going. And so because of that process, I have complete trust that my next level, I don't have to know exactly how. I just have to know, okay, this is where I'm going, guys. This is what I want. And if it be your will, I know that this is happening. And I don't have to worry myself about, because imperfect action is sufficient. There's nothing that I've done that's been perfect. I've never had all my I's dotted, my T's crossed. Half the time, like, you were in the Tribe Builder Challenge group, half those days, Yolanda and I would be in Messenger 10 minutes before the thing, about what are we going to talk about today? Or I'd be sliding. I'd be just finishing up homeschooling and like sliding into this chair, putting on my wig. You know what I mean? Like, yes. I don't have it all together like that. Now, now people can't see that on the video.
People still see some stuff on my videos. So go ahead, play, and I'm like, I'm still twisting my hair.
Right. So yeah, we don't have to be perfect, but we have to be persistent.
Yes. I don't even have time to write this down, but we don't have to be perfect. Okay, I'm gonna finish writing it later. That is just so good.
Because you can always correct. What we have to be stop being so afraid of failing and just be committed to getting a result. Okay.
Yeah.
Even if the result is not like what you exactly wanted, if you do enough work to get a result, then you know how to adjust and correct course. And you get to learn where your gaps are. So if I launch something and nobody buys it, well, then I get to look and see, okay, did they opt in to my freebie and just not take the offer? So if that's the case, then maybe there's something with like my messaging on really communicating the transformation they'll get. Or if, like what is the thing? But if you never get far enough to get a result, you can't even know what you need to know and what you need to tighten up. So we have to just stop being so attached to the outcome and just be committed to getting a result that we can then decide, like from there, okay, this worked really well, this did not, I need this type of coach, and I'm going to take this course.
Yes. And like you said, once you have those results in hand, like there's so many different things I've been learning. And I've gotten to the point where I realized, first off, there's not that much more left for me to learn as far as before I practice. I don't really have to know all the advanced techniques when I'm not practicing the basics. I don't need to know how to do all that if I'm not even producing anything to do. Like, I don't need to know SEO and how to, I don't need to know all this stuff. I'm not even putting anything out there to use it with. Like with my nutrition practice, or something that might be more relatable to people watching, like homeschooling my kids. There was so long where I didn't get started, and it's like I don't even know my child's learning style because I've never taught him nothing. Like like in a school setting type of situation.
Right.
So it's like you can apply. If you've watched it this far, God has a message for you, whether or not you are an entrepreneur or building a business or anything like that. Whatever your sphere of influence is, whatever you do on a daily basis, there's probably something that you can apply this to. Just do it. Whatever you're insecure about or nervous about moving forward with, just do that next thing, take the next step, because with those results, you're going to learn so much about yourself, so much about the people that you are serving, and that's going to get you to the place where you become more confident. Oh my goodness, Camille, thank you. Now, I know that I'm not even going to ask if this was a blessing to you watching this, because I know it was a blessing to you. Camille is writing her first book, which I'm excited about. Camille, I should ask, you have a podcast coming out soon, right? Is that still in the works?
You know what? I had to press pause on that.
That's okay.
Clubhouse has rocked my whole...
You are doing the thing on Clubhouse.
Yeah, and so I have some ideas on how to do some things with my club on Clubhouse. And I'm like, there's no reason to launch a podcast right now, because essentially on Clubhouse, it's like a 24/7.
The audience that you're growing there, I mean, I don't know everything about podcasting, but I feel like what you're growing in Clubhouse is growing so much quicker than a podcast.
That's how I feel too, because the people are already right there and listening. I don't have to try to drive traffic to another destination. So that's what that's the main reason that I said, let me just hold off on the podcast for now.
She's on every morning at 7 a.m. Central, every morning, except for the weekends?
Yeah, I do Monday through Friday.
Oh my goodness. I don't even know how do you, and that just has to come from just doing it and doing it and doing it, afraid, doing it, tired, doing it, whatever, because you have endless content.
Well, this morning, and it just, everything that you do, like, it's funny because, when I first started, when I told you how I was under the teaching of a woman who was, teaching us the mindset stuff, but it was, framed biblically. This woman had so much content. When I discovered her, she had already been doing this type of teaching for probably 8 or 9 years. And she had recorded everything that she ever did. So even like in her early days, before the internet was really a thing and people were, there was no Zooms. She was doing conference lines and people were calling in. But she was like, even when no one dialed in, she recorded it. So she recorded everything and she repurposed it. And so this morning, I overslept. I woke up last night at like 2:00 in the morning and I just started doing some work because I was energized. Fell asleep. I woke up at like 6:47.
Oh, that's close.
And I don't really think of these, I had not been thinking of these topics in advance. I kind of, wake up, I do my morning routine, whatever comes to me, and I'll ask, Holy Spirit, what do you have for me to say to these people today? This morning, I really didn't have much time to consult the Holy Spirit about anything. I said, okay, I had to get up, use the restroom, and I'm like, okay, it was like 6:52 at that point. And I'm like, so what I did, I went into my Google Drive. I have a folder with a lot of my old videos in it. And I just scrolled and I was just looking until something jumped out at me. And I said, ooh, are you operating on low power mode? That's it. And so I didn't have any notes. I didn't have any bullet points. No, that's not true. This is what I did. So I had like a few minutes left. If you jumped on this morning, you might have noticed I was like 1 or 2 minutes late. I played that old video. The video was like 6 or 7 minutes long. So I listened to that video just to get my key points. And then I just did it on Clubhouse.
That's so smart.
So it's like, and I realized, so back then, when I really had decided, okay, this is what I'm going to do, I said, you know what? If I'm going to be that, then I need to create content and I need to commit to teaching somebody something every day. Wow. And so I didn't really have a big audience at the time, but I'm like, this is how it works. Obviously, I'm like, so even if no one's watching, I record this stuff. And eventually I have this vault. I mean, I was paying this woman $197 per month for access to stuff that she recorded 8 years ago that nobody was on the call for.
Wow.
But that really like made an impression on me. And I'm like, and so now my vault of content is growing. So typically for these particular rooms, I'm just, letting the Spirit lead me. But if I need to draw from something, I just go look at something. It's okay, this is what we're going to talk about. Yeah. And this morning, that's what I had to do.
So what is it for you, that maybe you need, that you're insecure about? You can comment and let us know if there's something you want us to pray for you about, or if there's something you want us to speak into. What is something that you're insecure about, or something that you want to grow in confidence when it comes to this certain area of your life? Camille, thank you so much. I want to make sure I have everything. You're writing a book. She has her free group. If you're not in that, and you are a coach or a consultant, a female coach consultant, something of that nature, you want to be in that group. And she also has her intentional circle. That's a paid group. And it's just, you can tell her energy is just it's just amazing, and it's such a blessing. It's very nourishing to the spirit and very motivating. So where all can we follow you? I know you're on Facebook. You just got on Instagram.
I did. Clubhouse. So for those of you who are not familiar with the Clubhouse app, there's no like DM or chat feature on there. You have to look up your Instagram, and that's how everyone's chatting on there. And so I'm connecting on Clubhouse, and on my Instagram profile, I literally had 0 posts. Like I had the account existed, but I was like, there's nothing there. So now, because I don't want someone to get all this great information from me and then click through and be like, well, is she even legit? She doesn't even have any posts on here, and she has like 2 followers. So definitely connect with me on Instagram and follow me. I will follow you back. On Instagram, it's at Cam Dangerfield, CAM Dangerfield. And on Clubhouse, it's also at Cam Dangerfield. And then on Facebook, at Camille Dangerfield. Yeah. And so if you are interested in checking out the Intentional Circle, we talk about these types of things like the inner work, the mindset, the spirituality, the getting our habits together, and all that great stuff. It's a fresh new group, right? It's a relaunch of an old group. And so we're just getting in there and getting acclimated. So it's a great time to join us. If you're interested in that, visit intentionalcircle.com. And if you want to join us in the Coaching with Confidence program, that's the program that Krystal is in. And I help people who, again, let's talk about insecurities, right? I'm really not that far ahead of Krystal and the other ladies, right? Well, when you talk about the amount of time, and what I'm saying, like, it's not like I've been in this for 10 years, right? But I know enough to help them to get to where I am now. And then as I continue to grow, then I can help them with that part. So like, start where you are. But if you are an aspiring coach or an existing coach and you're just not really feeling like you're getting into your rhythm and getting your traction, then join us in Coaching with Confidence. That's what I do. So
And
yeah,
very well.
you get me all fired up talking about this. I can talk about this stuff all day.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, we could talk about every part of this creed. We could talk about so many other things, but I'm gonna stop talking and just say thank you again. Thank you for watching. If you watch to the end, let us know. And again, leave a comment with what you want to grow in confidence about. Okay. All right. Thank you so much for joining us, and go in peace and presence.